Some people look at injustice and fight for change. Others look at a mildly inconvenient coffee cup and decide the best solution is to drag the entire legal system into a hostage situation. It's amazing. We built courts to handle real problems, and somehow they've become customer service desks for humanity's most fragile egos. If you've ever wondered how far a grown adult will go to avoid taking personal responsibility, buckle up. Because whatever you think the bottom of the barrel looks like, trust me, we're still nowhere near it. 1. You'd think the most expensive pants in history belonged to a king, a celebrity, or at least someone with questionable fashion taste. But no, they belonged to a judge who decided that the American legal system was the perfect place to resolve a laundry dispute. After a dry cleaner misplaced his trousers, this man didn't ask for a refund, a replacement, or even a coupon for free starching. No, he demanded $54 million because apparently the emotional trauma of wearing backup pants is financially equivalent to founding a small nation. I love when people treat the court like a cosmic suggestion box. Dear universe, I'd like wealth, power, and also my pants back. The judge eventually lost the case, but honestly, the real loss was discovering this was a grown adult making decisions in public. 2. At some point, every law student learns the phrase, "You can't sue God." But my personal favorite part is that we had to officially confirm this because someone actually tried. A Nebraska state senator filed a lawsuit against the Almighty for causing natural disasters. Yes, hurricanes, floods, the usual weather package. The complaint essentially said, "Your Honor, God won't stop smiting things, and it's getting out of hand." The judge didn't dismiss the case because it was insane. He dismissed it because God couldn't be served papers. Imagine the bailiff trying to staple a summons to a cloud. The best part? This created a legal precedent. You can theoretically sue God, but only if you can provide an address. So, if heaven ever opens a P.O. box, the courts are ready. 3. Then there's the man who sued himself. Yes, himself. He argued that by getting drunk and committing a crime, he violated his own civil rights. And since he was in jail, he wanted the state to pay him the millions he was technically awarding to himself. This is peak galaxy brain logic. It's the legal equivalent of punching yourself in the face and sending your reflection the hospital bill. A judge read this, paused, probably looked out the window for a long contemplative minute, and then dismissed it. Not because it was absurd, which it was, but because the law still requires a defendant to be someone other than the plaintiff. Revolutionary concept. Still, part of me respects the creativity. If you can't escape prison, at least try to sue your way into a tax-funded retirement plan. 4. In Turkey, a mayor woke up one morning and decided the biggest threat to his city wasn't crime, infrastructure, or corruption. It was Batman, the superhero. He claimed Warner Brothers stole the name of his city and owed them damages for emotional distress? Tourism issues? A spike in dramatic brooding? No one knows. He also suggested the films caused psychological strain on residents, which honestly might be the first time a politician blamed a fictional billionaire vigilante for real-world problems. The lawsuit never made it to court because even international law has limits. But the mayor proved one thing. Somewhere out there is a parallel universe where Gotham sues back. And frankly, with the state of that city, they could use the settlement money. 5. One psychic sued NASA because she believed the Mars rover was trespassing on her property, on Mars. Yes, she claimed to be the official ambassador of Mars and said the rover disrupted her cosmic vibrations. Imagine working at NASA, launching a robot millions of miles into space, only to get served legal papers by someone who thinks interplanetary real estate law applies. Her argument boiled down to, I own Mars because I feel spiritually connected to it. That's like claiming ownership of the moon because you once howled at it after too much tequila. The court dismissed the case in under a minute, effectively confirming a very important legal rule. You must live on Earth to sue in Earth court. 6. If you've ever received a disappointing iced coffee, you've probably complained to a friend. But one woman complained to the federal court system. Her lawsuit claimed Starbucks committed fraud because a venti iced drink, shockingly, contained ice. Her argument: the cup didn't contain the full amount of liquid advertised because ice takes up space. A scientific discovery truly ahead of its time. A judge dismissed the case, writing that a reasonable consumer understands that ice occupies volume. Translation: even a child knows how cups work. The irony is rich. She bought coffee to feel awake, but ended up proving she needed caffeine for a reason. 7. One man sued Anheuser-Busch because their beer commercials promised him attractive women would appear whenever he cracked open a can. When reality delivered only disappointment and beer breath, he filed a lawsuit for emotional distress. I have many questions, but the first is, at what point during the commercial did he think, yes, this is a legally binding contract? The court ruled that the ads were puffery, meaning exaggerations not meant to be taken literally, which is polite legal language for, "Sir, please get a grip." This man tried to sue a beer company for not personally upgrading his dating life, proving once and for all that hope is a powerful, terrible drug. 8. California eventually had to create an entire legal category called vexatious litigant, because one man filed over 300 lawsuits after a fender bender. He sued the other driver, the tow truck, the mechanic, the insurance company, the county, and possibly the concept of driving itself. After clogging the courts like a cosmic hairball, California said, "Okay, that's enough," and restricted his ability to file anything without a judge's permission. Imagine being such a prolific nuisance that the state has to create a personalized legal babysitting system to keep you from sending subpoenas to random strangers. Honestly, impressive commitment. Horrifying, but impressive. 9. A Michigan man won a Subway for Life contest, then immediately sued Subway because his prize wasn't literally infinite sandwiches until the end of time. Instead, they gave him $13,000 in gift cards, which, judging by inflation and the price of a footlong, still feels generous. He argued that, for life, meant the company should feed him indefinitely, like some kind of sandwich-based royalty. A judge eventually decided that corporations can define their own contest terms, which saved us from a future where companies are sued for not providing lifetime supplies of pizza, soda, or emotional stability. The man didn't win his case, but he did win the award for most determined person to die surrounded by bread. 10. The infamous McDonald's hot coffee case became a pop culture punchline for people sue over anything, even though the truth was painfully different, quite literally. The woman suffered third-degree burns because the coffee wasn't just hot, it was heated to a temperature capable of stripping paint. But McDonald's PR machine spun the case into a national meme about frivolous lawsuits. What followed was one of history's greatest examples of corporate gaslighting, convincing millions of people that the victim of severe burns was actually the bad guy. The irony is almost poetic. The only real frivolous part was how the company framed it. If lawsuits had Yelp reviews, this one would be tagged, "Not what it looks like." 11. A wildlife photographer once captured a macaque monkey taking a perfect selfie with his camera. Cute, hilarious internet gold. And then, PETA decided the monkey owned the copyright. They sued on behalf of the animal, which they named without evidence, claiming animals can hold intellectual property rights. The photographer who bought the camera, set it up, and traveled to the jungle apparently had no creative input in this scenario. The court disagreed and ruled that animals cannot hold copyrights because, shockingly, animals cannot file taxes or hire accountants. This case officially confirmed a legal truth I never thought needed clarification. Monkeys cannot own photography studios. 12. A man once tried to sue a weather channel because their forecast predicted sunshine, and he got caught in the rain. His claim: the inaccurate forecast led to illness, discomfort, and emotional trauma, as if meteorologists should guarantee perfect weather like they're running climate DLC packs. He wanted compensation for medical bills and psychological suffering, which is fascinating because I didn't realize disappointment in Mother Nature was billable. The court threw it out immediately, but imagine if he had won. Every picnic, every wedding, every ruined beach day would become a class action lawsuit waiting to happen. Umbrella sales would plummet overnight. 13. A man sued his date for showing up late. Not hours late, not disastrously late, but late enough to mildly inconvenience him. His argument was that her tardiness caused him emotional distress and wasted his time, which, to be fair, he then spent suing her. So maybe time wasn't his strongest asset. The judge dismissed it on the grounds that bad dates are not a matter for the legal system, which is a shame, because if they were, we'd all be entitled to government-funded therapy after using dating apps. The lawsuit did, however, establish one universal truth. Some people take punctuality less as a courtesy and more as a sacred, legally binding oath. 14. In New York, a man sued a TV network for airing a commercial he found too frightening. The ad featured a spooky-themed promotion, and instead of using the remote like a functional adult, he decided the appropriate response was to file legal paperwork. His lawsuit claimed emotional trauma, which is amazing because this implies the commercial was so terrifying that it bypassed his ability to blink, move, or change channels. The court said no, obviously, because if fear were suing grounds, half the internet would be bankrupt. But I still admire how he treated a TV ad like a paranormal attack requiring judicial intervention. 15. A man in California sued his former employer for firing him, which sounds normal until you learn his reasoning. They terminated him for being possessed by demons. Yes, demonic possession. He argued the company discriminated against his religious condition, and he wanted compensation for wrongful exorcism. Sorry, termination. The court dismissed the case faster than you can say holy water, but they did have to read it first, which is already too much. This man woke up, blamed his performance issues on Lucifer, and genuinely thought HR should have accommodated his supernatural affliction. Honestly, that's dedication. Delusional, but dedication nonetheless. 16. One man decided to sue his doctor for failing to warn him that surgery would leave a scar, which is fascinating because the man was having surgery specifically to remove something under his skin. He insisted the doctor should have disclosed that cutting someone open creates a line where, shockingly, the flesh comes back together differently. His lawsuit argued the scar damaged his career opportunities, which really makes me wonder what career path was derailed by a 2-inch line on his torso. Professional torso model? Competitive beach flexor? Maybe a magician whose big trick involved dramatic shirtlessness? The court dismissed the case, presumably after resisting the urge to staple a diagram of human anatomy to the complaint. Honestly, if a scar was all it took to ruin his future, the future probably wasn't that sturdy to begin with. 17. In one of my favorite philosophical contributions to the judicial record, a man sued a fast food chain because their napkins were too thin to effectively remove ketchup from the face. He claimed he suffered emotional trauma when he wiped his mouth and still saw a red smear, as if the restaurant had personally sabotaged his dignity. I imagine him in the mirror, staring at that tiny blotch like it was a tragic Shakespearean wound. His lawsuit alleged the napkins caused embarrassment during a business lunch. But honestly, if your colleagues are judging you based on ketchup residue instead of your ideas, maybe the napkins aren't the real problem. The judge declined to hear the case, likely worried that entertaining it would open the door to a future where condiments can sue for defamation. 18. A man in New York sued a chocolate company because the bag of candy he bought wasn't filled to the top. This wasn't about flavor, quality, or safety. No, his great crusade was against slack fill, that disappointing space between what he wanted and what he actually received. He called it psychological manipulation, which is a bold statement considering every chip, cereal, and snack bag on Earth is 70% air and 30% disappointment. He claimed the empty space caused distress, which I relate to emotionally, but I also relate to the judge who dismissed it. The best part is imagining this man pacing through the snack aisle like a detective, uncovering a vast conspiracy of partially filled packages, whispering, "I will make them pay for this." 19. A woman once sued her cable company for airing a reality show she wanted taken off the network entirely. Her argument was that the show was so morally corrupt and intellectually insulting that it violated her rights as a viewer, which is hilarious because she apparently forgot that the remote control exists. Instead of changing the channel, she marched straight into court like she was performing a public service for humanity. She claimed physical and emotional harm, making it sound like the show crawled out of the screen and personally insulted her furniture. The lawsuit didn't survive long, but I admire the confidence it takes to attempt deleting a TV program from existence through sheer legal willpower. If that actually worked, half the streaming platforms would disappear instantly. 20. In one of the most ambitious attempts to rewrite physics, a man sued an amusement park because their roller coaster obeyed gravity. He complained that the sudden drops, sharp turns, and uninvited downward forces were dangerous, which, is the entire point of a roller coaster. He said the park should have provided stabilizing measures, presumably meaning eliminating the laws of motion for his personal comfort. Imagine being the judge assigned to this, reading a lawsuit that basically says, "Your Honor, gravity attacked me." The case went nowhere, of course, but I still love the idea of someone riding a thrill ride specifically designed to terrify people, then demanding a refund because it succeeded. 21. A man sued a produce company because he found a sticker on his banana and claimed it caused him significant emotional distress. Apparently, the surprise presence of a fruit label shattered his trust in the agricultural industry. He complained that the sticker interfered with the natural purity of the banana, as if the fruit had been spiritually compromised. He spent several paragraphs describing the horror of discovering the sticker mid-bite, which honestly paints a picture of someone who has never interacted with modern produce. The court dismissed the case, but I hope the judge handed him a grocery store pamphlet explaining that stickers are not a personal attack. They're just labels. Not everything is a betrayal, man. 22. A couple sued a theme park after getting photobombed by a costumed character in their paid souvenir photo. They argued the rogue character ruined an irreplaceable moment, which is bold, considering they were literally in a park filled with screaming children, giant mascots, and overpriced snacks. They demanded compensation for the emotional damage caused by a fuzzy cartoon animal waving in the background. The park offered a free retake, which any normal person would accept, but these two saw a legal opportunity. The judge disagreed, of course, likely wondering how we've reached a point in human civilization where people think the justice system exists to correct their vacation aesthetics. 23. One man attempted to sue a neighbor because their wind chimes created a frequency that he claimed disturbed the quantum energy of the neighborhood. Not his sleep, not his peace, the neighborhood's quantum energy. He argued that the gentle tinkling sounds interfered with harmonic vibrations essential for mental clarity, which is a poetic way of saying he hates wind chimes. The court dismissed the case, but I respect the creativity. Most people would just complain about noise. This man reached directly into the universe's internal settings menu and declared atmospheric disharmony. Honestly, he should have at least gotten style points. 24. A man sued a casino because he lost money gambling, which is like suing the ocean for being wet. He claimed the casino failed to warn him about the risks of betting, despite the fact that the entire architectural design of casinos screams, "We will take your money and make you like it." His lawsuit argued that he was misled by flashing lights and exciting sounds, which is funny because that's their entire business model. He essentially sued for marketing working as intended. The judge threw it out instantly, but the man did achieve something impressive. He became the only person in history surprised that a casino didn't exist to fund his retirement. 25. One woman filed a lawsuit claiming her neighbor's Christmas decorations were so bright they caused her emotional injury. She argued the display created an unreasonable glare, which is an elegant phrase for "I hate festive people." She said she couldn't sleep because the inflatable snowman stared at her window with malicious intent. I would pay money to see the courtroom sketch of that moment. The judge dismissed it. But imagine the legal precedent if she'd won. Neighborhoods everywhere would devolve into annual legal battles over who gets to display joy. Holiday spirit. Meet cease and desist. 26. A man sued an airport because his luggage weighed more at the gate than it did at home. He claimed the scale discrepancy was part of a conspiracy to extort fees from innocent travelers. His lawsuit insisted the airline had tampered with mass, which is an incredible accusation because mass is not an optional setting you can toggle off. He demanded compensation for the emotional distress of paying for overweight baggage, as if the airline owed him therapy for physics doing its job. The case was dismissed, but I do hope someone explained that maybe, just maybe, his bathroom scale from 1997 wasn't the gold standard of precision measurement. 27. A man sued a dating app for failing to find him a soulmate. He argued that by promising algorithmic compatibility, the company implied a guarantee of romantic success. He demanded damages for lost time, emotional suffering, and existential frustration, which makes me think he was probably bringing that energy to the dates in the first place. The judge dismissed the case, presumably after wondering if the next lawsuit would be against gravity for making people look shorter in person. Honestly, suing an app for not delivering love might be the most on-brand modern lawsuit ever filed. 28. A woman sued a restaurant because the menu didn't specify that a dish contained cheese, despite it being called 3-cheese pasta. She claimed the name was metaphorical, like a poetic title. I wish I were kidding. She insisted the dish should have listed ingredients more explicitly because she didn't realize cheese meant literal cheese. The court dismissed the case, thankfully, but this moment should be preserved in a museum of human confusion. Somewhere out there is a person who thinks 3-cheese pasta is conceptual art rather than a recipe. I hope she never encounters buffalo wings. 29. A man sued a movie studio for releasing a trailer that made the film look exciting, but the full movie was, in his words, intellectually barren. He filed for false advertising, arguing studios shouldn't be allowed to mislead paying audiences with edited highlights. I mean, he's not wrong, but the idea of holding Hollywood legally accountable for boring movies would collapse the entire film industry overnight. The court tossed it immediately, but imagine the world we'd live in if he'd succeeded. Every bad sequel, every lazy reboot, every disappointing finale, all subject to litigation. Honestly, maybe he was onto something. 30. A man sued his former landlord because the ghosts in his apartment weren't disclosed in the rental agreement. He argued the place was haunted. The landlord knew, and he suffered emotional distress from spectral interference. He described cold spots, flickering lights, and shadows shaped like disapproval. The court dismissed it because proving ghost existence is, shall we say, tricky. But I love that someone looked at a scary apartment and thought, you know who can fix this? The judicial branch. Somewhere out there, a landlord is relieved the ghosts weren't required to show up as witnesses. 31. And now, the crown jewel. A man sued a store because he tripped over his own pants. Not pants on the floor, his pants. He bought them, wore them, didn't hem them, stepped on the too long legs, fell, and blamed the store for selling pants that allowed such a hazard. He argued they were dangerously long. The judge dismissed it almost immediately, but part of me imagines the clerk reading the complaint and whispering, "Sir, tailoring exists." This lawsuit is the perfect summary of human logic at its worst. Make a terrible decision, experience the natural consequences, and immediately try to monetize it. A flawless masterpiece. And there you have it. A grand tour of legal genius so spectacularly misguided, it makes me question whether gravity should apply selectively. If you've got a lawsuit dumber than these, drop it in the comments so we can all stare into the abyss together. Vote for the one that deserves a Lifetime Achievement Award in stupidity. And if you want more trips through humanity's finest disasters, you know what to do. Like, subscribe, and brace yourself. The madness only gets weirder from her.